Hello, everyone. I'm Danny Valdez, and you have made it to the live signing of Chrishell Stause's new book, Under Construction. I'm so looking forward to this. Love the subtitle because living my best life took a little work. From an unconventional childhood to struggling to pursue her dreams to living her dreams. She's a star of Netflix's hit show Selling Sunset. Chrishell, welcome, and how are you today?
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. This is a big day. I'm very excited to be here.
Launch day, eh?
And this is the first time I've ever actually been in Simon & Schuster. This has all been communicated, through email. So it was a little exciting. I had to take a picture out front. I'm very excited to be
here. So you're at the publishers right now. I didn't realize that.
Yes, very official.
Is it nice? How have they been treating you?
Well, they were very patient as they waited for me I was like, wait, sorry, I want to get a picture. This is kind of I'm going to want to remember this day. So they're the best.
Yeah. So for the next hour, Chrishell is going to be signing books and answering as many of your questions as possible. For those who've tuned in and you've not yet purchased a book, you actually still have time to order an autographed copy of this, fabulous looking book. And you can submit a question. If you order a copy of this book today, you're actually going to be able to submit a question. I'm going to get it on my iPad. And if we have time, I can ask it to her live while she's signing books. Just click over to premiercollectibles.com/Chrishell to order your copy. So Chrishell, love the cover. I used to be in construction, so love that you're wearing a tool belt and holding a hard hat. That is so cool. Why did you write this book and why now?
Is it true you were in construction? Or are you just saying?
15 years.
Really?
I can build a house from the ground up. I can build built-in bookcases, cabinets.
This is very impressive. Okay. Sorry, that completely distracted me. That's very impressive. So sorry, what was the question?
Yeah. Well,
great start, guys.
So why did you write this book and why now?
Oh, okay. So actually this started, we were in COVID lockdown and I was kind of going through a lot of huge life changes. And on top of, being in the middle of a pandemic, it was hard. And, it's not like you can distract yourself with a lot of things. So sure. I turned to writing to kind of, more like a cathartic process. And then, I was approached with Simon & Schuster. And of course, that's a huge compliment. But what I say as the way that we start the book is it's also intimidating, and so I'm really excited to share my story with everyone. I'm also, anxious and, nervous. So much time and effort goes into this, but it was my chance to be able to give context to some things that didn't previously have context. And, I live in a world where all of a sudden my life's turned into, sometimes it's this clickbait type of thing. And so I just really appreciated to have that, runway to kind of tell the story in full context, where I came from. You'll obviously get to, hear a lot of things that you don't hear when you're only watching maybe Selling Sunset. It's like a highlight reel or, basically the best of times and the worst of times and nothing in between. And so it's just nice to kind of be able to share. I feel like I'm connecting with so many people that have shared their stories with me that have made me feel comfortable in getting to this place and sharing. So it's been a really rewarding process, and today's the day of publication. So I can't wait to see what their thoughts are, and I can't wait to connect with people further on the new things that I shared.
Yeah, and how is that process to go from lights, camera, action, line memorization, constantly on the go, on the clock, on a budget, to the long form work of writing a book?
You would think that it's easier because then you don't have, people, taking some things and maybe, editing them down. However, then you don't have anyone to blame if you don't like it. The onus is on you. So, there are pros and cons to both sides of it, so it was an undertaking. I mean, I don't think I understood how much work was going to go into it just because it's one of those things, it's hard to, want to tell your story, how to start, where to go, where to take it. And so it's one of those things that I feel like finally getting to this place it feels like an accomplishment, but it's also, like you said, it's very different than what I'm used to, you know? So
Yeah.
I will say I loved it because it feels like a complete thing that I am really proud of.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's a lot more work than, you know, sitting in front of a camera like this. People, you know, you'll end up making it its own thing. And I'm not in charge of it. I'll get to go home. This, it's like, okay, I was doing real estate, doing selling sunset, and then I would come home and just, you know, pour over, okay, I have 3 more chapters.
Yeah. Yeah. I love a good chat, but like, man, to sit down and formalize an email that's going to work and somebody's going to understand it. I couldn't imagine writing a whole book. You actually have a section in this book, best and worst jobs ever. What was your absolute worst job ever?
My absolute worst job, I would have to say, my very, very first job I worked with, my dad was a mechanic. And so I was 15, so
Okay.
I couldn't go out and get, you know, you had to be 16 at the time to get a real job. So I would go during the summers and I would, you know, answer the phones for his mechanic shop. And people were asking me for pricing. They would give me this Kelly Blue book, which is about this big. And you'd have,
Yeah.
it didn't take long for me to start guessing at pricing and then get in trouble. And so I really did not like that job. I got relegated to just answer the phone and bring it to me. Don't say anything.
Yeah. And do I spy selling knives door to door? Like, what was it? Have you seen Napoleon Dynamite where Uncle Rico
Yes.
was like selling Tupperware or whatever? Was that your vibe?
Yeah, no, seriously, except worse because I'm showing up, you know, with a bag full of sharp knives and asking people to let me into their home. So I really do remember that when I have a house that's hard to sell, I'm like, no, if I can sell knives
Yeah.
door to door and get people to invite me into their house, I feel like I can sell this house, you know, that's got some issues.
Yeah. So you've got that kind of stuff, but you also go pretty deep. And I want to go a little deep here with you today. What about the cost that you've paid to be successful in your life? I know this book is about a huge backstory, your childhood that was unconventional, some of the things you had to deal with growing up. And, you know, it didn't sound like it was a paved road for you. Tell me about the cost. What's it take on the dark side, if you will, to be able to, you know, live your dreams?
Well, I think that, you know, it definitely is a journey that I share in the book about something that, you know, for so long I was really ashamed of and I tried to run away from and hide because I had so many different interactions where it did hurt me, just in how people perceive you really. And so I think the cost is, you know, it it does it did make everything harder. You know, of course, you know, I did well in school, but, you know, I wonder if, you know, I had been, you know, in a household where, you know, they're putting you, you know, within these kind of places and situations where you can really be, you know, where you can really flourish. You know, so I will say it was a lot tougher. However, I definitely feel like that has made me who I am today, you know? And
Yeah.
so it's hard because I feel like, you know, of course there's when you say the cost, I mean, you know, you also lose time with your family when, you know, when they're, and I go into this in the book, but, you know, they struggled with things that I haven't always opened up about, you know, with addiction and with, you know, mental illness and that kind of thing. And so that made the struggles a lot harder when we're just talking about, you know, of course it's easier to say, oh, you know, we try to make ends meet and, you know, they didn't always meet.
Yeah.
There were other things going on that made it, you know, really tough. And so as a kid taking that on and feeling like I needed to be the adult many times at a young age, it's kind of, you know, one of those things where, you know, I think my relationship with my parents, it was, you know, it was not the normal relationship. And then getting to a place where I really, really, really just respect them and I really feel like I can appreciate, you know, what they did for me. And as far as, yes, we didn't have these, you know, tangible things that would have made everything easier. However, the things that they did give me, love, and the fact that they never questioned my dreams or what I said I wanted to do, that blind faith in my daughter can do anything she wants to do. So it was a different path, but I also am very grateful for the path now. It's taken me a minute to get there. I had to find that where it's like, wait, I'm not ashamed of this.
Did you pursue real estate or acting first?
I pursued acting first.
Okay. Yeah. So real estate was that LA side hustle while you're auditioning? Is that?
Yeah. So I always dreamed of being on a soap. It was basically the antithesis of the life that I lived. And my mom and my grandma loved these, watching these glamorous women on soaps. And so I remember as a kid, practicing my soap turn in the mirror. I mean, I would do that for a very long time.
What's a soap turn? What do you mean by soap turn?
So they have these opening sequences, and they've got like a fan going, and it always, it just cuts to one of those kind of.
Yeah, okay.
And I remember when that dream was realized, when I booked all my children, and I was filming that sequence that as a kid I had, done so many times. I was trying to give this sultry face or whatever, do the thing. And I actually was trying not to cry because it was just one of those, like, this is my wildest dream come true. And so to be where we are today, I hadn't even dreamed this big. Yes. I feel like I went the soap route. I ended up later on being on Days of Our Lives, but my character got written off. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, this is my dream and I really want to do it, but I'm not in charge of when I work. So I need something else. And so real estate kind of came as a backup plan, something like you said, I could do an audition and still, have something else separate from that. So it kind of happened, in life you have to pivot. And that's another common theme of the book is sometimes, when it feels like the worst. I mean, obviously, getting fired from a job doesn't ever feel good, even though it wasn't because anything bad happened. It was just new writers and, what they decided to write for. Yeah. But it ended up without that failure, I would have never gone on to pursue a real estate license. And I would never be in the position I am now, where it doesn't matter what TV show I do or I don't do. I will always have my own business that I'm extremely proud of. And that means everything to somebody that, just kind of grew up in a way where you're always scared about what, if it all goes away or if you lose it, that kind of a thing. So,
yeah. I mean, attention, LA, New York, Nashville, the beyond actors, have that side hustle or man. And, that actually turned into a major thing you did. I mean, Selling Sunset is directly a result of being a prior successful real estate agent.
Yeah. Well, to anyone listening or watching this right now, when you're down, you're not out, and you can't let those voices creep in because, I went from a time where I had no job and I'm auditioning all these things. I'm not getting it. I go and get my real estate license. I slowly start clawing my way to, it takes a long time to get your first deal under your belt. And, and then as time goes by, now all of a sudden I'm a working realtor. Days of Our Lives calls me to see if I'd be willing to come back to the show. And then Adam DeBello, who created The Hills and obviously created Selling Sunset, calls saying, hey, would you be interested in, switching brokerages and filming the process for a real estate show? So it went from, zero prospects to all of a sudden I'm juggling 3 jobs. So just remember that when you're down, you're not out.
I love that. So out of everything you do, obviously you can't pick a favorite. You've got teams represented behind the scenes of each of these projects, but what really stands out to you? What is your notable work, if you will?
Notable work in any of it?
Yeah, in terms of all the projects, from real estate agent, you've soap operas, Netflix shows. Do you have something that you say, I'm really in the pocket here? I love being right here.
Well, I actually think that's what's interesting is I think I started pursuing real estate as a backup plan. Mm-hmm. And it took me a long time to feel like confident and to know what I'm doing and to be able to talk to these people and, really give them the confidence that I know how to sell this crazy multi-million-dollar house. I've got it. So honestly, I really do feel like when I'm on a soap set and I have that, I love it. And I do feel like, I really thrive in that scenario and I just have so much fun with it. And then I feel the same way with real estate. And, of course, reality television, it was the same learning curve. I mean, I definitely was not ready or didn't know what to do at first, but I finally felt like, I feel I love all three. So I
Yeah,
can't choose. And I think that's what's so
that's
exciting
great.
is that I don't have to.
Yeah, that's great. So many questions have come in. I mean, I do a lot of live signings and you have a lot of questions. So
Ooh,
would love to dive in there. These, of course, have come from people who've bought the book. Um, and so
thank
when you
you.
buy the book today, you have a chance to ask her a question and I'll read it to her. So let's go to Dawn from Michigan. She says, do you have any skincare tips or favorite products?
Let me see. I like for me, I use Dermalogica moisturizer, but I think that it depends on what your type is, but they do have one for each one. I've just used them so long. My sister's an esthetician. If you watch Selling Sunset, you know this, and she turned me on to this, and so I love them. I've used them forever. And tips, always wash your face at night. That's one that I also need to hear.
Oh, I
I
just
don't
needed to hear
always follow
that.
my advice.
I think I only wash my face when I shave and I rarely shave. So I feel
Well,
the
I
same.
feel like guys, maybe, women, we wear makeup, not all of us, but I'm just saying, for
Yeah.
me, sometimes I wake up the next morning, I'm like, forgot to wash my makeup off.
All right, Marco from Germany. What's the nicest house so far that you have seen in Los Angeles?
You know, so I've seen some very expensive homes. There's one now on the market for, I think it's like $295 million. It's insane. But those don't strike me as, to me, they seem a little more like malls.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I think the most beautiful, I know it's going to sound really cheesy, but I really do mean it. I truly am in love with my house. I love it so much. So, because to me, it's just the perfect house and it's home to me. So, home to everyone is something completely different. And I think it's whatever gives you that feeling, and that can take on all different shapes and forms. As somebody in the business, I'm selling everything from, just so many different kind of styles. So to me, I have to actually say the home that I purchased last year, which was a huge milestone, and I'm
Oh,
absolutely in love
congrats.
with it. Thank you.
Yay. Right on. Cindy from Pennsylvania. Between all the hard work and success of your many endeavors, how do you maintain that work-life balance?
Sometimes not as well as others. I think because work
Yeah.
goes so well, I get so excited, and then these opportunities come up, and I'm not the greatest at saying no. I'm actually, this year is the year that I do need to, carve out more space, because there are things that don't fall under that career list that are important to me, that I do want, but I have to make time for. So, to be honest with you, I don't always do a great job at that, but I am actively. The first step is recognizing the problem. So I've recognized it, and I am going to try and do a little more balance. But I love what I do, so it is easy to get wrapped up in something that you love doing. But so honestly, I don't know. I think I could do a better job at that.
Yeah. You're open for tips at this point.
Yeah, just keeping it
Steve,
real, guys.
yeah, I love it. Stephen from Austin, Texas. What's the biggest thing you learned about yourself through your reflection while writing?
I think that it's okay to put your mistakes out there, because for so long it really felt like it's embarrassing, or it's
Yeah.
humiliating, or whatever, and you know because I wasn't in charge of how public my life ended up becoming, and all of the failures, it actually did make me embrace it a little more. And in writing this book, I don't shy away from that stuff as much as, I never would have told some of this stuff before. So I think that there's power in owning the good things and the bad things. And I think there's power in, owning that journey and finding because life is always going to have its ups and downs. And so I think for me, just allowing myself a little more leeway in the I think we all probably have very high expectations for ourselves, and that's great. But I think it's also okay to, to know that failure is part of it, and to know that, people don't need you to be perfect. They don't want that even. I love when people share their stories with me about things that we connect on. And many times it's, different failures that they've seen me go through, and it's helped them. And so I feel like they're helping me and they don't even know it. So I think that really I think transparency is a beautiful thing that's kind of been a new trend with it, people just opening up about things. And I personally love it.
Akisi from Wheaton, Maryland, what are you looking forward to this year?
Oh my gosh, so many things. Super Bowl. I have, first of all, this book signing and this book week is this is a dream week. So I'm trying to make sure and be present and not let it just go by in a blur. And then right after that is Super Bowl. So that's like a little more of the immediate. I'm not sure if that's really what she was going for with the question, but I think that I'm just keeping an open mind. I'm going to try not to, get too bogged down with work, and really kind of put a focus on, balancing what we were talking about before a little bit more.
Yeah, nice. Lisbeth from Bellflower, California. How do you try not to lose yourself or remind yourself not to lose your sparkle?
Well, actually, only you can do that. And I think that, when these times happen, when, something really devastating happens, and it can be anything from career related, relationship related, losing a family member, something like that. I mean, it can be devastating and can really, mentally drag you down into a place where you of course you don't feel like you're sparkling. You've been in bed 8 days and you can't. So I think that it's really important to put a lot of focus on your mental health. And that's something that I have learned along the way, after so many different times of, things in life not going the way that I wanted them to. I think that was something that, I didn't come from a family where anybody talked about mental health. I didn't come from an area, a small town in Kentucky, where this was a thing. And I think that that's another thing that I think is great in being open about. And I think so for me, I think anytime I lose my sparkle, it's because something went really horribly wrong, or something seems humiliating or embarrassing, or I failed in some way. And I think for me, it's about talking it through. I'm open about this in the book, but I have a therapist who I adore, and I think that that's really important to just kind of get your mental state back so that you can get back to who you are and who you love. Because if you don't love yourself, that's going to show, and you're not going to be able to achieve the things that you really want to,
I feel the goosies on this one. Yes. Bryce from North Providence, Rhode Island. What is the most important advice you can give someone who just feels stuck, whether it be in life, relationships, work? What do you do to motivate yourself out of that rut?
So personally, I think sometimes your body, if you start the motions, even if your mental isn't following, say mentally you don't want to do something. I've always gone by, no matter how you feel, get up, dress up, and show up. And I've done that so many times where I didn't want to, of course, but what happens is then you end up, you're glad you went, or you're happy and sometimes you have to know that the mind is going to catch up with you just going through the motions. And I think that's part of it. Obviously I said the thing also about mental being very important, but I think it's just, really think about what makes you happy, and focus on that and manifest and get your vision boards out, get your, and if something in your life is really not working and is really making you feel held back, you need to figure out what it is that you can either change or, fix. So I just think that, life is short. We gotta, we only get one. So you don't want to waste time in a situation or, a dead end job, or just whatever it is that's making you unhappy. I feel like, so there's like an active plan, and then also just pushing yourself to kind of okay, I don't want to do this, but I know this is what I need to do. So my brain will catch up to my body.
So good. Brandy from Collinsville, Oklahoma. If you could change one thing in the world, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, change one thing in the world. Well, I mean, there's the obvious answer that, I would love for there never to be any human or animal homeless. I would love for everybody to have a home, and love. I mean, I think that's the first thing that very clearly pops up in my head, because that's something that if you could, I work really hard with so many different organizations on both sides with animals and, and different organizations that help with homelessness. And so that's.
But you were homeless at one point or several times, right?
Yeah, we went through, they're different. This is another thing that, like on the show, you get a snippet and you don't have context or anything. And so it was really hard at times. I mean, my dad was a mechanic. He drummed. He was a drummer in a band as well.
What kind of band?
They did like covers at the rock music.
After construction, I was a tour drummer. Now I'm a host. Please continue.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Is that serious? That's me. I know how to take down the drum set.
Yeah, you were his tech.
Yes.
Yes. So do my kids. My kids know how to take down my drum set.
Oh, that's so cute. In a very small town, there's not a ton of work, and and then my mom would just pick up odd jobs here and there, and so we had a lot of eviction notices. We would go to campgrounds. We would even campgrounds, you have to pay certain fees for the electricity, water, that kind of the utilities, and then we would wait till we'd get kicked out to go to another one, or we would, sometimes we would go to, there's a cousin, there's my grandma, there's different things, but we definitely didn't always have utilities or a roof over our head. And there were big stints, 2 different times in my life that were big stints. And it was hard. It was one of those things that I remember the first time talking about it was on Selling Sunset. And I was thinking, I just like broke out into body sweat. And so to have started there and have it been such a shameful secret that I tried so hard to hide, to now realize that this is something that I need to talk about, because if anything, I want people that might be in that same situation to be able to, be inspired by this story. There's no dream too big, and I feel like if I had listened to some of those people when I told them I wanted to go off and, be on a soap opera, I wouldn't have even tried, because of course there were so many people that told me, I was going to college to be a theater major. Now that doesn't sound like a very great plan. I'm sure my parents were like, yes, go do it, but of course, outside of that, if I'd listened to those people, I would have never pursued that dream because they thought it was ridiculous. So I would just say, obviously that's a passion of mine. And I feel like, clearly that will come through in the book. I'm very passionate about believing in yourself and following your dreams and not letting people, tear that down. That's something that should be sacred. And sometimes you don't even share it for that reason. I wouldn't tell people what I really wanted to do once I realized I just don't even want to hear it. I know what I want to do. I would be waiting tables in college. They'd ask what my major was, and I'd say, I'm a business major.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Brittany from Valley Center, California. Who is your dream co-star? Let's just take me off the table for a minute so that you can, because we
now I have to think.
Yeah, let's second choice.
Second choice. Dream co-star, just anybody? Let me think. I mean, Zendaya right now, everyone's talking about her. She's so talented. She's everything. She's so beautiful. Everything she wears, everything she does, I'm just clearly obsessed with her. I just think she's amazing. So, if I could even share air with her, she's with her.
Maybe you'll be in Dune Part 2.
Yeah, I don't see this happening at all. But again, if we're just saying it out there, why not?
Milena from
I
the
could have said
Netherlands.
someone a little more.
What's that?
Oh, I was just saying I could have maybe picked someone that, would be a little more like believable that might actually happen. But why? Why not just?
I think that's quite believable. You could be a Dune character. Could curl your hair and put you in rags, and you could be a desert person.
I'll just tell people that I was one of the people under the whole mask thing with the, I could just say
yeah, exactly. I know. That's me. I'm like, can I at least be the mask guy? Come on, just one of them. Milena from the Netherlands, all the way from the Netherlands. How do you stay positive after everything you've been through? I'm a massive fan of your positivity.
Well, thank you so much. That's really sweet. I say, again, this is another thing in the book, but I think it's kind of a funny anecdote. My blood type is B positive, and I remember when the first time I realized that
that's how she stays. Yes.
And so I always thought that's so cute. I was like, that's like a mantra. So granted, of course, I have gone through things that you can't be positive if you've lost a parent. And I hope people watching this, we don't share that in common. But if we do, you understand that. There's nothing to be positive about when something like that happens. However, in writing this book, I was able to shine light on their story and give their life, and be able to tell people things about them that, wouldn't have otherwise had happened, and I think I got into a space where people didn't want to bring up that I had lost my parents, and it was a sore subject if it came up. Sometimes you're talking about things and people accidentally, and I didn't want to be in a place where that I just, where people don't want to, I want to talk about them. But of course that took a while. And I think the way to do that is, you have to think about what they want for you and where they want you to be. And so I know she asked about how I stay positive, and that's just one example of, really trying to live my life in the way that I know my parents would have wanted me to. And that helped me stay positive, and that helped me go and pursue and do things that I knew they were rooting me on. I knew it. So
wow.
I think it's just important to, when the table is upside down and everything seems against you, you have to almost look at it the opposite way and think, well, then I have nowhere to go but up, and I know that's like, you have to basically just flip everything upside down and think of it the opposite way and think of it like that. Like, where when I came from nothing, it was like, okay, well then, failure, it doesn't seem that scary because, what do I have to lose? I only have success to gain. So even in those moments, I was thinking of it like that. So I think that's really important in making things happen in your life. You have to believe them.
Yeah. Chrishell, isn't it always back to mindset? I mean, no matter what is happening, I feel like you're right. It's so hard in the moment, but can't you make a conscious choice to simply shift that gear and choose to, like, what was your quote again? Like, get up, show up. Say that again.
Yeah. Get up, dress up, and show up.
Yeah. Like that's for me today, because, like, you're so right. Like, whatever is happening, like, dude, you can't just lay down. I mean, that's the difference, I think, is you're getting me inspired. Now I'm on a soapbox, but I feel like, to sit there and wait to feel good, and then now you can move forward. Man, that sometimes just doesn't come. You got to, like, move forward, and then all of a sudden you find yourself feeling good, right?
I completely believe that. And I actually, my mom, one of her favorite phrases was, "Oh, just my luck." And she would that was just something she always said. And so then I started saying it because that's what we said when something went wrong. "Oh, just my luck." Yeah. And it wasn't until I got a little older that I actually thought about what I was saying. And I was like, wait a minute. This isn't my luck. I'm changing my luck. I'm never going to say that again. And it was in that moment that I just decided I'm never going to say that again. Because I do feel like if you think that way, that's what will happen, as opposed to, being like
these little nasty mantras. Mine was, me. Anytime it went back, well, that's, me, me. and then I had to start reversing that. So when things went
Yeah.
amazing, I'd be like, yeah, you know me, you know how I do,
Yeah.
right?
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey,
I'm a big believer in this.
wanted to take a moment and talk about this. This is a special edition book. It's actually autographed by Chrishell. If this would make a great addition to your collection, a great gift for somebody you know, et cetera, 10 people you know, head over to premiercollectibles.com. It's at the bottom of the screen, premiercollectibles.com/Chrishell. Before they are sold out, people. These books sell out all the time when we do these live signings. Right now, they're still for sale. And you can still ask a question to Chrishell that hopefully we'll get to. So
can I say also,
yeah.
we're in February, guys. Look, this is like the perfect Valentine's gift. I'm just saying.
Hey, that is nice.
So if
That is
Valentine's
nice.
Day gift, treat yourself, treat someone else.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. So let's go to Sharon from Phoenix, Arizona. What would you like a reader to learn from reading your book?
I would, I think I'm going to feel so much closer to anyone that does read the book because, it is such a more in-depth, my life in depth. And so I would want them to learn, I'm not a one-dimensional caricature on Selling Sunset. I feel this one here that's driving me nuts. Okay.
I know. That's me when I have a monitor.
Yeah, I know. I wish I could see myself because then I'm okay. No, but I think, that it's just like that. It's like, I want to not have the pressure of when I go out or whatever. It's almost like, there's this one aspect of me that about. And now, granted, now the show's been on for many seasons, so that's not necessarily true. You kind of have seen me go through the ups and downs, but I like being able to share the full scope of everything. And so I'm really hoping that people are able to learn that, like what we were just talking about, how important that is and how that's been the mindset and, manifesting things has been so intricately important to how, I am where I am right now. And so I would hope that they learn, maybe a lot of, I have things in there about real estate. I have things in there about, obviously everything from career to family to relationships. So just some lessons that I've learned along the way that I, like I say, I'm a work in progress. I always will be. I'm the first person to say this is not me, bestowing advice on anyone, but it's just these types of things where you want to enjoy your life because it is going to go ups and downs, and you don't want to be stuck, wasting too much time in a down moment. The point is to try and, as quickly as you can get back up there. And so I'm hoping that that is what people take away from this. I'm hoping they feel inspired. I'm hoping that they laugh with me. There's a lot of, I wanted to, I have an odd sense of humor at times, but I feel like that's the one thing too. It was very important to me that, we don't get too heavy at times, but if we do, which is real, but then we, just like in life, we'll bring it back up. So I'm hoping that they leave feeling inspired and, that they basically learn that you have to be your biggest fan, your biggest supporter. And if you don't believe in you, nobody else is going to believe in you.
So true. Jill from Wisconsin. I'd like to embark on a fitness and health journey, but my family is making me feel guilty about it. Any advice when you don't have a great support system? Maybe what you just shared, but she says thank you.
Wait, why would they not support you on trying to be healthy?
That's why I thought the same thing. They're not.
That makes me sad. Well, that's rude, guys. Don't stop not supporting her. Let's all support each other. I think
play this video of us going, hey, support her. This is what you do. Show her this video.
Yes. I think, that's tough. And this happens with a lot of different things. So we could broaden this out, and somebody wants to, like I did, pursue something that their parents don't want them to. They want them to be a doctor, whatever. Sure. But if it's something that is important to you, like fitness, like health, like so many things, a career path, not everyone is going to support you. Not in sometimes, under the same roof that you're in. And so, you, like I just said, yeah, you have to be your biggest supporter, so connect with other people that would motivate you, friends, other family members, whoever it is, but find your tribe. And it's not always the people you want it to be. And I know that sucks, but find your tribe and motivate each other. And a lot of times people will come around once you really start to show, the fruits of whatever it is that you're pursuing.
Brooke from Indiana. Hi, I'm interested in becoming a real estate agent, and I was wondering if you recommend going to college.
Interesting question. Okay, so I did go to college. I used that time. I really kind of, I didn't need to go to college to be an actor or a realtor. I think this is such a personal journey for each person. I know college is so expensive. So many people have a hard time. I truly feel like I just finished paying off my loans not long ago.
Oh, man.
And so I think that is a personal decision for each person. But no, you don't have to have you don't have to have a college degree to do a lot of things these days. And I think that I actually listen, if you think you're going to go and really get something out of it, I really feel like the way I entered doing a couple high school plays to where I ended college, like all the acting experience I got and just all the different things, I don't think I would have booked all my children had I not had that time to work on that. I'm not saying maybe I wouldn't have like down the road, but that whole first year would have been, I had a year of auditioning and then I booked the show, but I just think it wouldn't have worked out that way. So it's different for everyone because you also could have just gone and done classes out there. So I think that's a personal decision, but I also, there are a lot of successful people that don't go to college.
So true. Veronica from Venice, Florida asks, which celebrity made you fangirl the most before you worked with them?
I would have, let's see. Oh, I have a good one coming up, but I'm not allowed to say who it is.
Coming up. You signed that NDA.
So I'll have to think of, okay. Who I really love, you guys know Tones and I. She sings Dance Monkey. She sings Fly Away. She just had a huge hit with that song. I'm such a fan of her music, her voice. Oh, I could listen to her singing the phone book. And I was going to be working with her and finding her a home. And I was just, so excited to meet with her. And so I didn't want to, just come across and be like, and so what's funny is that we did eventually get there once I knew that she knew I'm not trying to, and so we became friends. And now it's, and then of course, once you make sure someone is comfortable and you're professional and all of it, I think it was around the third or fourth time meeting up with her, showing her homes that, we were just talking about different things and she would go, there was a piano in a house. She just started playing it and just singing a cappella. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing that's ever happened. Her voice was just filling this huge house. But, so then eventually I did fangirl to her and, she's wonderful.
That's so rad. Macy from Springfield, Illinois. What is the greatest lesson from your childhood that has helped you as an adult?
The greatest lesson from my childhood that has helped me as an adult, I would have, because there were many, but I think I would have to say really knowing what's important, because that is something that in the world that I've now found myself in, you either sink or swim. It's crazy when you have a spotlight on you and people pick things apart and as much as they want to love you, they want to criticize you. And people love to build someone up to take them down. And to be able to weather that storm and to feel proud and to feel like now I'm to a place where I can share the good and the bad. And, of course, you're always going to have those people that are rooting against you. And I think that all came from my childhood of, I know what's important. When things do go bad publicly or in the press or things get misconstrued, I can easily understand that none of that matters. It's about my family and it's about, those types of things that money can't buy. And I think that is why I love the life that I live, and I love, selling these multi-million-dollar homes, but that's a lesson that will never leave me. And I think that is key to being able to successfully, work and live in the world that I live now and not become a psychopath.
Yeah. Preach. Ashley from Bristol, Tennessee. Hi, Chrishell. So excited to read your book. I'd love to know what show you're currently binge watching.
Oh, okay. So, Kristen Bell has a new show out. I'm going to mess up the name, but it's something like, the girl in the house across the street from
That's
the
guy
in the window or something. It's my friend Shelly is amazing. And anyway, the show's hilarious. It's a spoof on so many of the other shows you've seen. So it's really very funny. And then I also just caught up on my Housewives because I'm going to be on Watch What Happens Live later tonight. And I watch anyway, but I definitely wanted to be, current. So I was on the plane on the way here, binging some Housewives.
I may or may not have checked out episode 1 of Selling Sunset.
What'd you think? And why? Just honestly, episode 1 of season 1 or season 4?
No, season 1, episode 1.
Okay, not our best work.
No. I was, it was good. I think you. I don't know how or why. I don't know how this happened, but somehow you were familiar. I guess partially because I've had this for several weeks. I've watched interviews of you, and so I think, I was watching the show and sort of like the whole time like squinting in judgment until there was So that's
well, can I just say disclaimer? Don't judge us on, the show was quite the process, and we definitely found our legs as we went along, but it's not the
great.
show.
I was looking for you, I guess. That was the thing, is the whole time. And until, it was like everyone was a stranger. And I was like, all right, strangers, it's like, where's my friend? I befriended you, whether you liked it or not, before
nice.
That's my point. Yeah. It's not that the show was bad. It's that it was unfamiliar to me until, so. All right. So Mariella from Los Angeles, California asks, did you pass your real estate exam the first shot?
I did. I was so excited because in California, there's a 20% pass rate on the first try. And I was thinking, you have to set the appointment. It's months in advance. You took all these classes a long time ago. It's hard to retain these things. And also you feel like they're kind of trying to trick you sometimes on the questions. So I did. And if anyone's watching this, that's going into real estate, I did an intensive for a weekend where it was 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Saturday, Sunday. And obviously, that's not fun, but it's one of those things that you do it right before you take the test, and you're just basically cramming for 2 days in a row. Yeah. And I did that because I just didn't want to have to wait months and months again to take it again. So it was important to me. So if it's a timing thing, it's really important to you. I would find some place that does a cram session, and it helped me a lot.
Valeria from Texas, what is the hardest part of being a realtor, and what is your favorite part?
Okay, well, the hardest part is that sometimes exactly what you're looking for, and it's just not there. I have some clients that are actually really easy to work with, and I know exactly what they want, but lately the inventory has, it's just made everything really challenging. So that can be difficult because you can't do business if you don't have the inventory for your clients. And so I've gotten stuck so many times with it being an inventory problem, or they put in a great offer and you end up losing out. So that can be tough because of course you want to come through for your clients. I would say the best thing about being a realtor is when it all comes together, when you finally find them the house that they love, whether it's their dream home or their first house, handing them those keys is my favorite thing to do. I absolutely love it. That's the part of the process that can be really magical when you're working with people that you truly love and enjoy. It's really rewarding to be able to, everyone's job is done. Now go have fun and enjoy. Crack that wine open.
Nice. Rue from Toronto, Canada. Hard question. What memory brings you the most joy?
What memory brings me the most joy? Okay, let me think. I would have to say, okay, off the top of my head, I'm not thinking this through, but what memory? Well, let me. What memory brings you? Oh, there's so. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to get stuck on this one, but I don't. I'm trying to think what, because there are big milestones that I have in my life that I'll, just the silly one we were talking about with the soap turn. That was like one of the first ones, and then, now, much more important. So I'm trying to think. I think I would say, okay, I don't want to get sentimental, or I don't want to. It is sentimental, but I don't want to. I know what it is. Okay.
Take your time.
I took a trip with my mom. It was our last, the last trip with my mom.
Where did you guys go?
I went to Kentucky. I was taking her. This was not supposed to go this way. See, I haven't figured it out all the way talking through this, but it was a very happy memory. So I'm going to push through this. I know it doesn't seem like it, but it really is. I took her, we got a cabin on the lake in Kentucky. She was so excited, and we went on the boat, and she, that's my mom. She wanted I sell these dream homes. My mom wants, a cabin by the lake with, that was, she loved it. And she was just so happy, even though she was so sick. We just had the best time. And I have, it's just all of my favorite photos and videos and everything. It's just a very special memory.
About how many years ago was this?
That was, thank you. That was in 2020. And
wow, very fresh.
So I think we took that trip in, I believe, June of 2020, and then she passed in July. So it was, she was just so full of life, and we had such an amazing time, and so it just seemed. Anyway, you get the point. I'm sorry.
No, I'm so glad you shared. Do you feel most of your life you had a great relationship with her?
Well, that's what's interesting, and that's kind of what I get into with the book. And I recently shared a little bit through a recent post about them. And it was hard because as a kid, I remember being angry a few times of, just like decisions that maybe they weren't, I didn't think were the best at the time. When you're dealing with someone that, they were battling, different demons. And as a kid, you don't know what an adult is struggling with. You just know that you're coming home and there is never food in the fridge and you're hungry, or never, but I'm just saying in that angsty, kid way, I remember being, or same thing with like, getting jealous that, I had friends that, their parents are paying for their college and just different things like that. So, and like I share in the book, I was ashamed a lot. It took me a long time to find out who I was and get secure with who I am, and really be able to not only embrace my family, but be so proud of them. And so, so it wasn't always amazing. And I had to find that forgiveness in knowing that they did the best that they could, and they loved me in the best way that they knew how. And in, basically becoming an adult. And I feel like as kids, we expect our parents to be these infallible, perfect people. And, you're comparing them to these sitcoms that you see on TV. And it's just, far from the case for most people, no matter what your childhood is. It's not a sitcom. And that's what we were shown as, family. So anyway, I would just say that really, that then after all of that work was done, we were never closer. And it's,
wow.
Yeah. And I just, obviously it would, yeah. I hate thinking that there was any time wasted. So if anybody is watching this, I would just say, if you are holding a grudge, if you are mad, it's not worth it.
Wow. You know, I was, when I was at the funeral of one of I didn't grow up with my dad, and I had a father figure pass away, and the pastor came up to me and said, this has been said before. He said, but you're not fully a man until your daddy dies. And that really struck me as unique for something to say, but it really, I really felt that. And as I went through the years after that, I felt this maturity rise up in me, and there was a seasonal change. I was on a new path, if you will. Do you relate to that quote? You know, you could insert woman, you could insert mom, but do you relate to that in terms of losing your parents? Was there a massive seasonal shift in your life?
Well, first of all, I'm sorry that we share that loss. It's not a club you want to be part of, but you do feel connected when somebody shares that, because it's, you know, it's a life altering kind of change. And so I can understand where you're coming from, what you said about, you know, it kind of changing you and helping you become a man in a way that is not what you want, but it makes you. So I guess I do understand that side of it. I don't feel like it was that for me, but because, like I said, my life was so different that I felt like I had responsibilities, and I had done things that at times I kind of was the mom in the household for a little bit. I helped raise my baby sister for a little bit. I'm not taking this, but you know, my mom would go in and out of big, you know, bouts of depression and things like that. And, you know, and so I think that, so I don't think that I feel like that as much, that I can 100% understand how some people do feel that way, only because the roles shifted a little bit back and forth in our lives.
Wow. Yeah. Well, these are heavy things, and I appreciate you being vulnerable, you know, and sharing. You know, a lot of people are unwilling to do that. Like you said earlier, I think it is being more popular. It is becoming more of a thing to talk about mental health, to talk about where we're really at as human beings, rather than who we want to appear to be on social media or on mainstream media or on TV. This has been such a great time for me. I am so thrilled about this book release. I wanted to do 22 questions in 2 minutes with you, but I'm so glad we did not. We are out of time, unfortunately. Want to say to all of you listening, thank you so much for tuning in. So glad you got to see you got to see Chrishell and learn about her book and hear her heart. To get yourself an autographed copy of this, go to premiercollectibles.com/Chrishell. And whether you are a collector or lover of books, Premier Collectibles has the best-selling author-signed books everyone wants. If you want to be a part of the live signing experience with more of your favorite authors, follow Premier Collectibles on Instagram or Facebook. And Chrishell, from all of your friends who've tuned in, from all of us at Premier Collectibles, this has been such a good time. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It really was a pleasure.
Yay. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thank you again.
Hey, this is John Acuff, New York Times best-selling author of 7 books and someone who's done a live signing. If you like the one you just watched, make sure you check out our YouTube channel. It's full of amazing authors having great conversations and signing books for viewers just like you. So make sure you subscribe, and thanks for watching today.